What is going on, guys? I am Consumer Tech Review, and it is midweek, and that means no keyboard content, but something new. And we're gonna be checking out probably the best commuting e-scooter and just fun scooter overall with a really long range for under $1,000. Now that is the InMotion S1. This thing comes in at about 970 bucks. So let's go over the main features. But if at any point during the video you wanna check out this exact same scooter, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's jump into it. First of all, it's full suspension. So you can see back here, we have the suspension components. And if we actually lean this over, you can literally see those red springs underneath, which is very, very cool. This has got front suspension very similar to something like a mountain bike. Obviously not quite as intense, but a good amount of travel, especially for a scooter. This is something where having this large amount of travel for a scooter can actually help you get up on curbs pretty easily. It also takes out the bumps pretty well. Now my main everyday scooter is can't remember the brand, but the brand name will be right here, and it is the Neon name. This one is full suspension. That other one is not as full suspension, and I noticed it right away. Getting up on curbs, smaller differences, broken pavement, stuff like that. This thing makes it very, very cushy. All right, but let's talk about some of the things, the big things. Number one, as you can see, this is pretty thick right here. I mean, look at that. This is all of the battery. Now the first thing you're gonna notice is these are the charging ports right here. And there are two of them because you can actually charge this with two chargers at the same time, which is pretty cool. The only thing is they don't actually sell that charger like additionally to this. They might start doing that, but they advertise it, but then it only comes with one charger. That's a little bit weird. But with two chargers, this thing can charge in 3.5 hours from 0 to 100% if you have two chargers. So you might be able to find another charger somewhere else. But that range, we're gonna talk about it, 59 miles, under $1,000. That's pretty good. Let's also talk about the top speed, which is pretty cool. And I'm gonna take this down off of this rock to kind of show you. If we come over here, here is kind of the display. You hold it, and there is kind of your display. There, that's your range right there. You see I'm at 4 bars because I went out for a little bit of a ride right now. But this thing will do a max of 18.6, I think. And it does do that every single time. That's not just like it does a top speed, but it doesn't actually do it. This thing hits 18.6 all the time. Higher torque than a lot of others. So even though you can see these tires down here, if we come over and look at the tires, these are definitely street tires. You can definitely see those are made for the street. However, they do surprisingly well off-road. Not the tires aren't great for off-road usage, but the torque is incredibly good. This thing can climb 30% grades, and even going up steep hills does incredibly well. Probably one of the best scooters that I've used going up grades. Now the torque starts to dissipate at around 15 miles an hour, which is very good, because that's like your common top speed. Might be a little bit lower, like 12 might be your common top speed for most. This one goes up to 18.6. At 15 miles an hour, it kind of edges up to that 18.6 mile an hour, but at 15, it pulls hard until 15. Now the other thing to talk about, if we look at the front wheel, this is just a spoked wheel. So there's no motor up here. This is actually a rear wheel drive scooter. You can see the motor is back here. Obviously hub drive. You do also have this nice brake light back here. It should be able to come on when I'm hitting the brake, as you can see there, off, on, off, on. That's very cool. So this is 1,000 watts of peak power. Now obviously that's peak power, but the torque comes in very nicely. Now, if you're like, okay, maybe that's too fast for me, maybe I'm a little bit worried about it, well, come over here, we'll show you how to change the different modes. This is without the app. If you want to change the modes, you double click it. There we got eco mode, drive, which is just your typical standard mode, normal mode, and then we got sport. Now I leave it in sport all the time. Let's go over some things that I don't really like. And trust me, we're not done with the features just yet, but that's the basic things. Now the one thing that I don't like is that this is designed for taller riders. Now I'm 5'9", so if you are shorter, you'll probably still be comfortable on this. So my girlfriend is about 5'6", 5'7", and she is very comfortable on this. But if you're like 5'1", 5 feet, this is probably not going to be the scooter for you. As you can see, when I'm standing on top of it, this is kind of where the handlebars come to. And unfortunately, these are non-adjustable. That's one of the things that I really do not like. The other thing that I don't like with kind of the whole size and everything like that is that this deck length, it looks like a fairly large scooter, and it is. But you can see from this point back, you're not supposed to stand right there. You probably could step right here. This would probably be okay. But you can see, if you want to step on flat surfaces, you only really got this amount of space. So you can see I wear a size 9, and you can see my shoe is all the way up there. I can kind of do that, but that's with a size 9. Now, if you are a bigger person and you have a large size shoe, that's not a whole lot of space. Now, again, most people are gonna be standing on it this way. So when you are standing on it this way, you can see there is a fair bit of space that way. However, I'm more used to having my foot back here. I have a wide stance. All right, we're gonna go and check out what my daily driver was before I started using this one. This one's a little bit faster, it has a little bit more range, but I'm gonna show you what I really like about that one that this one doesn't have. Okay, now this one is the OK Neon Scooter. This is my daily driver. Now you can see this one is smaller all around. It's got a smaller battery, it's got a smaller body, and it's even a little bit thinner, as you can see. Not only that, but the handlebars don't come up as much, but you do see on this one, we have some adjustability where we can go up and down. That's what I really like. So this one overall is a more beefy scooter. This one doesn't have front suspension. It's got a little bit of rear suspension, as you can see here, a little bit of rear suspension. But on this one, you can see that's quite a bit more suspension and so much cushier. The overall quality of suspension, so much better on this one. This one's quiet. This one's a little bit louder. This rear suspension makes quite a bit of noise, but what I want you to pay attention to is the deck height. So if we put these right in line with each other, you can see the point where this pillar comes down, about right here, the usable space is from here to here. But on this one, you get all the way back here. So you see how much more space. I mean, you're getting a solid open handprint of space back here. And that's pretty important because when I'm standing on it this way, that's how I'm typically standing, like this. You can see if I move to this one, I have to go in a little bit. I don't feel quite as stable. Now, those are nitpicking things. Let's go over some of the other features really quick. So one of the things that I absolutely love about this one that's very premium, in fact, is we're gonna have to come around to the front here. And if you just press the on button once, you can see there, we got those LEDs. We actually got dual LEDs here. This is a very modern design. I really like it. And these actually are like magnified. They almost look like HIDs in cars. That's something that I really like. These are incredibly bright. And you can see, you can't move these. On this one over here, you can see it also has a light. Doesn't look as premium, but you can tilt it up and down. This doesn't matter because this one is placed perfectly and it's got a wide spread. At night, this is incredibly bright. If you do want to use this at night, you're gonna have no problems with that. As well, adding to the safety, we've got these light strips down here, which is very, very cool. Now to show you this, I'm gonna open up the app. You can see right here, we have the app. It shows you the remaining range, 42.5 miles. That's probably not accurate the way I use it. I do get on this thing a little bit more aggressively. I accelerate a little bit more aggressively, but I would say probably cut that in half. It's still a very impressive range. All right, so let's go into the app here. If you go into settings, this is all of the stuff you have. You have automatic cruise control. There you have the turn signal. So let's actually turn that on. This one beeped to let us know that it worked. So it's blue under there, but then when I turn the wheel to this side, it should start blinking. So if you stopped at a stoplight, if you're kind of in the evening or at night, that's gonna help a lot with your safety overall. I also do wanna note, because I said the signal, this is all Bluetooth. You don't actually need Wi-Fi for this app to work, which is great. Now, one of the cool features is you have to go into the app, but it's actually this walk. If you click that, it's actually a pushing assistant. So I'm gonna walk with this right now, and if I'm walking around, it's actually going to slightly engage the motor so that it basically doesn't take any force to push this. So right now I'm pushing this, but it's actually slightly engaging that motor. So that is very, very cool. Now you might use this if you have to walk. Let's say you get to like a boardwalk if you're on the beach and you have to walk. This just makes it so you don't have to push this, because let's talk about the weight really quick. Because this has a huge battery, obviously you would expect it to be quite a bit more heavy. This thing weighs 53 pounds. Now overall, that's not a bad weight, especially for the amount of range that you get with the suspension components. And we're gonna show you how, if you do wanna pick this up and carry it, you absolutely can. If you wanna break this down and put it in a trunk, that's super easy to do. I'm gonna show you how to do that right here. So you're gonna click this, press this button in, pull down, and all you're gonna do is then fold this down. And then there's this little clip right here. So you're gonna pull this and then it will lock right in there. So that's all locked in. Now, one of the things to note is that because this has these big suspension components, you have the front suspension right here, this actually increases the height of this when folded. So if you are putting this in a trunk or something like that upright, this is gonna come pretty close to the top of your trunk if you have a sedan. If you have an SUV, no problem at all. So you can see when this one's folded down, this does fold flat, whereas this one kind of is in a V, but you can see the difference in height there. is pretty substantial. So having this full suspension, which is incredibly luxurious, and if you're a daily commuter in the city and there's a lot of broken pavement, that's a must. It is incredibly cushy, and that's the biggest pro that you're gonna have that this just cannot compete with. But you can also see the height difference is pretty substantial here. All right, so the next thing to talk about is the throttle. The throttle and the grips are very nice here. Full rubberized grips, they feel very comfortable. And then the thumb throttle is right here. Now, the one thing that I do wish is it was a little bit lighter. But again, I do wanna say these are nitpicky things. Overall, it's very smooth, it's very responsive, but my thumb got a little bit tired because it was so heavy. I do wanna say this is a great overall product. It charges fast. It has a great battery life, it's got great power and a great top speed with great suspension components, and so they really spent the money where it was worth it. However, there is some cheap stuff on here that's not quite as good. One of the things is we got this bell right here. This bell is, well, I mean, look at it, it's awful. It came not very tightened, and I just never bothered tightening it up, but I mean, look at this thing. It's awful. It sucks. So that's one of the things that they kind of cheaped out on. Some other parts that they kind of cheaped out on, which kind of makes me nervous, but I think it'll be okay because I have taken this in quite a bit of wet environments, is down here. We do have the charging ports and they're covered with these little rubber pieces, but if you put them over it, and so that one goes in there, but as you can see, it kind of like pulls out and they don't really stay that well. And then some other pieces, like down here, this piece to cover up the RGB and kind of disperse the light evenly, it kind of moves around. You can see it's like moving around. So that's kind of cheap right there. And then this is one thing that I don't think is actual structurally bad, but I don't think it's the best design in the world. Right here, this connects down here, and as you can see, it kind of moves a little bit. Now, if we compare it to this one over here, it's an incredibly good design. We put this in here, you can see here, zero wiggle. Now, overall, I don't think either of these are gonna break. I definitely do not think one is going to break or fail on you during your time using it, so that is great. But there's one last thing to talk about, and that is the braking. This one's braking is absolutely awful. Most things on this one are very, very refined, but the braking just sucks on it. It's incredibly jarring. Most people, especially if you're older, it's not fun. But even if you get the hang of it, it's jarring. This one is not like that. So this one obviously is using regenerative braking in the back, and then it uses a physical brake on the front, which is attached right there. Now, the braking does brake more heavily on the rear than the front. That would be my only concern here. However, this one is the opposite. It brakes more in the front than it does on the rear. So if you do brake incredibly hard, the back will squeal. It will kind of slide on the pavement. But again, that's incredibly hard. If you full on bear claw grip this thing all the way down, this will skid out on the back. But overall, it stops incredibly quickly. If you need to stop fast, this thing will stop you in an instant. And that's pretty common among scooters because they're using that regenerative braking, which is very cool. But on this one, the regenerative braking comes on very suddenly. It's very jarring. But yeah, overall for under $1,000, you're getting high output power, fantastic torque. Overall, a great cockpit with a responsive throttle, up to 59 miles of range. Again, probably looking more like 38 to 40 miles of range if you're gonna be pushing this thing hard. 18.6 mile an hour top speed, very nice headlights. You get LEDs lit on the bottom right there with turn signals, quick braking. But again, that most important thing here is the range and full suspension, which just makes this thing incredibly cushy. So overall, for around 960 bucks, this thing is fantastic. If you're looking for something that is going to be your daily commuter or just something that you want to have fun with, these things are so much fun. Again, if you want to check it out, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But tell me if you guys are interested in more electric vehicles, small electric vehicles like this, and tell me if you're interested in a review channel, a separate review channel maybe, or just incorporating more on this channel. Let me know if you guys want to see that. But yeah, this is a Consumer Tech Review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.